Chapter 3, Why Now? Part 1. I do not know which is worse, believing in something false or not believing in anything at all. It is time for another change in our collective awareness. In understanding how I know that a moment of change is occurring, we must understand first the events that led to this moment that I speak of. That moment is now. The past is evidence of the present and indicative of changes to occur in the presence to come. This whole entire life is just one big misunderstanding. Well, what? What do you want me to say? What do I say to a world of people who've been so misled? You've been misled! Believe me. Yeah, right. Where do I begin? There are an infinite number of places to begin with you. First, I begin with where we began. We started off on the wrong feet all over the world. I am looking back with current knowledge, also known as hindsight bias. Before we had questions, we had no idea that we would even have questions. At the dawn of our awareness of our position here on Earth, we did not have answers to the questions that we did not have. Our bodies and genetics developed, and our awarenesses developed too. We did not know from where we came. We did not know when we were. We did not know what we were or why we were. We did not know where we were. We cannot listen to those statements like that. We are going to have to go back, read them again, and think about what each one really means. I'm not just writing here. I'm tapping into you, and you may allow these patterns to do this because they're just patterns. You do not have to think about them very deeply unless you want to. Just listen to them a little slower so they don't all blur together. Now, we're going to check out those questions again, and while we do that, I'm going to make a break where I intended not to make one originally. That way, actually, I'll be able to pick up where I left off pretty easy. So, we did not know where we came from. We did not know when we were. We did not know what we were. We did not know why we were. And we certainly did not know where we were. So, where were we? We were completely lost. Have you ever been lost in any way? You do not realize it for quite some time. As your awareness searches for something that it recognizes, you cannot remember how you came to be in your position. You forget what time of day and what day it is. You lose all sense of purpose as you seem to be out of place. The things you do have little consequences as you realize that you are lost. You believe that somehow something that you recognize will come into focus, like where north is, who you used to be, and thus who you must be. A street sign, a person to be lost with, a landmark that you knew growing up, the sun, the moon, and your hands. You, as an awareness of everything, flail to find these things. As time elapses, you must resign to being lost. As you become more familiar with your surroundings, this new position comes to be your most recognized location, sometimes called home. You recognize all the shapes and patterns and start to give them names and reasons for their existence. Conversely, you find reasons for your existence in the reasons for their existence that you made up. You create your mental world in order to not be lost anymore because you didn't like the feeling. Did I say we were alone? Because we are. Suddenly, someone comes along, which is a surprise in itself, but this person has different terms and different meanings assigned to all that you have come to understand. Human beings do one of two things: accept or reject this new information. Based on this decision, humans act. If we accept, we are consuming the energetic patterns from this energetic being and allowing our perceived reality to be altered by this individual. If they accept your patterns as well, then the two of you decide together to alter your perceptions of reality to some new perception. If we reject, well, just look at human history. Look at your life and the lives of those around you. We attempt to destroy that which we reject either mentally or physically. Mentally and physically, you will find the two to be the same. We attempt to change each other's minds on all points all the time. We do this mentally, mostly without awareness, because it is happening all the time while we are awake and asleep. When we get physical, it is because this other person or thing has seriously threatened the integrity of the perceptions that you have created, and your world does not exist properly with those types of energetic patterns which are in direct contradiction with what you have come to understand. Being that you were lost in the first place, and after thousands of years of building all that you have come to understand, it seems quite difficult to accept information that changes your perception of everything. We have always been lost, as we are to this day. We have many points of reference. That is one of my truly favorite facts about all this. There are plenty of reference points that affect you so deeply and are right in front of your face and inside of yourself that can be known. There's quite enough that is very real to be excited about. One of the questions I have received primarily from an artichoke is, why would I want everyone to think the same thing? Would that not be boring? First, like the point that I just arrived at moments ago, trust me, there is plenty to be excited about that occurs on this planet, and of course the rest of the universe is very spectacular in its workings. People themselves are enough to keep anyone entertained until death, and there is plenty to do and see while we are here. Second, if the following of energeticism causes worldwide human boredom and monotony, then I would actually prefer that to the sick mayhem that exists right now on this planet. I mean to say that I would sacrifice my own and everyone else's sweet bliss and cruel indulgence while others suffer for boredom. If the starving and abused could all of a sudden become bored, because there's nothing boring about being tortured, oppressed, and abused. Again, you think this is not you? Slam the door and scare another awareness to understand you. That is abusing another's awareness. Why now? Because you are wiser. We are still very lost, and I have some new foundational points of reference for you. When were we? Oh, great. This was easy. Every culture did the same thing on the day they realized they should be keeping track. They all set the year 0 somewhere in their scrolls. Many base their timetable on some person's or mythical figure's birth, death, or prophecy. We have never set 0 where it is not. If we were logical at the dawn of our awareness, we may have simply barked, "We seem to be nowhere for no reason." We were lost. If you know anything about this planet, then you know that there were no signs other than what roamed in our minds as we perceived our primitive planet. We did not like the feeling of being lost. We had great difficulty accepting no answer to these questions, so we made up a bunch of answers. We had an infinite number of directions to go. We could not see behind us to know from where we came, so something must have put us here. Good thing, or else we would not be thinking about it. It was so simple for us to have said that something greater than us just set us here. Done. No questions. Why were we? It could just not be that there was no reason, as it appeared. No. Many groups concluded that they were here to take over the planet, usually because of what they said their gods said. Some groups succeeded. Some simply wanted to live. They were taken over. You don't care about who they were? You hated school and history? I would love to laugh at those answers to those questions, as our ancestors must have really been freaked out. But today, it is just not that funny. You are still freaked out. How do I know? I accept the most difficult and the most obvious answers to those questions, which you will encounter throughout these pages. And I'm freaked out too. You may be the highest Taoist monk, at peace with everything and so forth, but fanatics are next door ready to pop a cap in your ass. We matter. Everyone needs to accept many things before any real harmony can exist on Earth. In the past, we knew nothing, so we made it all up. And we have been following and building upon the same answers, expecting different results for thousands of years. To those who are educated, this should sound very familiar. That's right. It is a common definition for insanity. One who continues to do the same thing incorrectly and expects a different result. So many times when someone would come forward to say, I think something is wrong with what we have made up, that person would be made an example of in ways you really do not need to read about here. This was almost always because someone's perceived power would be threatened, and that is really all that mattered, the power that was wielded. Mental power must be the new way. Mental power is physical action in your brain, and in this way, it is physical power in itself. I worry about expecting a different result from you, if I may joke. As we have made up answers to the questions that we could not answer over the millennia, thousands of years, we have built almost everything upon those answers to the point that we don't even like to mention to each other the crumbling state of those answers in our minds these days. Answers grounded in fallacy are not fit to govern human existence. Our answers have been based on fallacies ever since we began making them up. This would be okay if people were not dying and being tortured right now because of it. No one has found a solution yet. This is where you question me. Since the past has been so poor and people so cruel to each other and cruel to themselves without being able to stop themselves, you might wonder why I think that what I have organized will help change anything or be any different than what we have done in the past. Somewhere in that question is the very answer that you seek and will be further revealed in the sections to follow. The answers we have come up with force us to perceive that we are greater or different than nature. So much that we find great difficulty in agreeing on the simplest of matters. As our awareness developed, we found quickly that we could do so much in the way of energetic manipulation by making buildings, building great armies to kill and take over other people, and producing great bloody wars. So we surely must have thought that we were better and more worthy than all these obviously lesser animals who could not do what we could do. We must have thought we were special or chosen, if you will. These ideas matched with the amazement of being aware at all, gave rise to what we see today. Human domination and the brutality that preceded it, and remains prevalent to this day. If we knew then all that we know now, I have come to understand that we would have come up with something quite different than what we find in front of us and inside of us today. I think you will agree. We were so incredibly sick, twisted, and stupid. How could we succumb to the most hideous thoughts? We didn't know any better, but guess what? We as humans now know so much more than we have ever known. All of the knowledge that we have come to acquire took thousands of people, thousands of years to discover. This is opposed to ignoring the people you live with who work so hard for your benefit. You learn this in school and you go on to discover new ideas, theories, and formulations. Unfortunately for you, you do not like school and think that it is a waste of your precious time, which, as you may come to understand, is not yours and does not exist. You learn this after you go so far in school. So, I must tell you what you have missed by not enjoying school and thus the history and achievements of the people of this planet. I will do so with utter bluntness, cruelty, and numbing repetition. I know that you are curious, but I assure you, you will throw this book at least once before finishing, if you finish it at all. Oh wait, this is an audio book. You can't throw it. You are notorious, though, for reading parts of things and drawing your own conclusions after taking in small bits of knowledge and then mangling them to fit your own whacked-out desires for what you wish the universe to be. The truth does not care for your feelings, much in the same way as, quote, quote, gods cannot. And after seeing how you have cared for each other as a race on this planet over many years, even I have trouble caring for your feelings regarding these matters. So, if you fear losing something that you hold dear to you, like your life, your parents, your belief system, or your current perception of reality, then prepare to be very afraid. This is the type of fear that you tried to fabricate through various belief systems, religions, and other methods of social control. The fear is here and the fear is real, yet it comes from a simple place that feels everything. You. As you learn more advanced history, you will find our past to be very gruesome. It really makes you question, wow, people really did all of those things to each other? Not only did they do everything that you learned they did, but there is so much that is not even written and may never be discovered that is simply stated atrocious. You can envision the worst things that humans can do to each other and themselves very vividly in your mind, although many of you do not like to, you must. Because you can. This tells you that you are capable of such things as is anyone, and everyone needs to know this so that we know not to do these things to each other or anything else. We do not live in peace by ignoring what we are capable of and what many people are actually doing all around us. Everything is still playing out today. Turn on your public radio. Watch the news and the history channels consistently with these new realizations in mind. It is time for the world to come together and realize itself. We can know ourselves better, and we can know to do better. I cannot sit back and watch the people of this planet destroy themselves simply because of what they are thinking or not thinking. We follow our instincts more than we care to realize. We deny our animal nature, which apparently is strong enough to set entire cultures up to fail and or be destroyed. You think that's not you? Think again. And again. Think more. I know that we attribute all of these occurrences that we see to other things. We blame everything except ourselves, or we hold everyone and everything else responsible before we even dream of holding ourselves responsible. What a crazy guy to blow himself up for his religion with his wife and kids at home, we may say. Tell me about it. The point is that you are crazy for not doing something about it. He lived here with you. Ultimately, this will all be about the awareness of breaking or reconciling ancient perceptions that are more commonplace than we currently seem to realize. We are all only aware of what we know we are aware of, and can be aware of nothing else until the next moment. This may help you to become aware of a few more things. Looking back, I can assure you the first thing we worshipped was either the sun or the moon. I have researched a few of the American cultures to see that the Aztecs were ancient by many thousands of years and seemed quite thrilled about their sun god, so thrilled that they spilled many millions of gallons of each other's blood in worship of their god. You know how you're not supposed to look at the sun? The sun god still says, "Do not look upon me, for I am too brilliant for you to look at or imagine." Sound familiar? Our first gods burned ideas on our mind of what God might be. Way too bright. And that is what many of us still think. This is just another way to put you in the mindset of how we mentally came to be the way we are now. Still scared. Sometime later, we realized that certain forms of belief were not good enough and did not cover enough ground in our minds. Through the years, the sun lost its status for many of us, especially as we came to discover what it is. Thus, we created gods in our image. Whatever did all of this had to possess capabilities greater than great humans who lord over all they survey, who needed the sun, a big ball of the simplest element in the universe, mostly hydrogen, when you have some awareness that exists between atoms. You may recall thinking back in your past or looking back in history and thinking that people really knew what they were talking about and doing. In other words, you may have thought that times were better back then. You did not know that then, and you do not know that now. In fact, you could not be more mistaken. No time in the past has been better for humanity than now. Our history is riddled with idiocy. People have pounded each other mentally, emotionally, and physically with ideas, and if they were not accepted, then your little window of life was slammed shut by a person wielding ideas with rage. Or perhaps you enjoy ideas like ethnic cleansing, racism, genocide, rape, and torture. These practices are based on a person's or group of people's belief about their position in this universe. The actions that result from these beliefs are based on other beliefs. Most belief systems separate us from the universe, nature, in awareness. This is how we are able to abuse it and ourselves so much. You think I am talking about murder? Murder is just an extreme form of abuse. I am talking about your tendency to put others down to make yourself look good on a planet in the middle of nowhere. That is abuse. In many ways, I consider this book to be abusive to those who must really struggle to understand it and thus themselves. Books do not abuse people. People abuse themselves inside with the energetic patterns that reside within books. This should point out the levels of abuse nicely that result from thinking anything other than the fact that you are here on a planet. People have never been kinder. They have been crueler in the past to each other because we, on this planet, created our own perceptions of where, what, how, why, and when we are, before we ever came together on these ideas, which, fortunately, is where we're headed. We are coming together on everything that we have been working on. We are still very hesitant to believe that anybody knows anything since we have been communicating false perceptions of the universe to each other ever since we started communicating perceptions at all. That is why now is a fine time to attempt to set us on a better track for the future. We are long overdue to reevaluate the questions and their subsequent answers as we have come to discover a wealth of information about our universe that you should well be interested in. Humans have never been wiser or more aware of their position. Over 14% of the people here on Earth, 1 billion of 7 billion as of 2005, venture to think that they do not know the answers to the questions. They are called agnostics, atheists, free thinkers, and secular thinkers for the most part. The rest of the population believes that the answers to these questions lie in religions and philosophies that originated when we thought the earth was flat and that women and children were to be suppressed when they are both our closest links to the universe in its purest form. Why would we do that? Oh yeah, power, control, and confusion, which is why we built the belief systems this way in the first place. This information is outdated. Had we possessed better information at the dawn of our awareness, perhaps we would not have killed so many women and children and savage, quotation marks, humans and of other cultures, beliefs, and regions. If you would have been reading the book, you assuredly would have read that as religions, and then I write this little note underneath that says, ha ha, you thought that said religions. It gets most people. It's kind of funny. Anyway, we're moving right along. There is nothing inherently wrong with creating stories to live one's life by until other people start believing them too. Then those people argue about the stories, then more people argue. It is because the stories have holes all over the place and they are not, any of them, accurate depictions of reality, or else people would not argue over them. And this is where I offer you a bridge to walk across. None of us can do anything more than create some way to live by, but there is so much that we can agree upon and apply to our existence that we have not yet agreed upon as a human race. When we create our mental existence, we do so based upon ideas that range from weak to strong as representations of reality. These ideas form over many moments or years into a kind of mountain of ideas or a molehill. The point is that you can jump off your mountain of beliefs at any time and would then have to build or climb another mountain of beliefs from the beginning. That is not what I would want for you. You may end up building something similar to what you started with, for it is impossible to build two identical belief systems, which also answers the artichoke's question. So I'll show you energeticism, and you may just want to fly right over, because you can. You see, it is my intention to create many bridges from others' belief systems to this one. Your awareness of what you believe is the universe aware of a belief system. Something tells me that was difficult for you to hear. Your awareness, you, may not understand the belief system that it is operating with and within. Your awareness has no choice but to roam around in a sea of ideas that manifests itself into a system of understanding. The information that I offer is to be added to all the rest of those swirling energetic patterns you call thoughts and ideas that you hold dear. It should be easy to understand because it is all that we see every day. When you get lost in trying to fathom life after death and whether or not you will become a dung beetle in the next life, remember the universe does not seem to work like that very often at all. There are many accounts of these things, but would you bet your life on them? I am betting my life on every word that you are hearing right now that this will work much better for you because you are lost, and so am I. Together, we look around and agree to many things which will bring to light, imply, many other things. We have seen what happens when we force ourselves to live our lives with inaccurate information. We kill everybody and we look down on each other and everything in between. I have created this to show you that what I have found may diminish the number of needless thoughts that you have about this planet and its people. Put another way, an argument is only as strong as its weakest premise. That is to say that a belief system is only as strong as its weakest belief. If a person believes in something that is not true, then bases many other things on this belief, eventually something is bound to collapse. Our human culture is collapsing and has gone through many cycles of collapse. Every nation is in some part of these cycles of prosperity and collapse as a result of what they believe and think. Our societies built on false premises are suffering. If you do not see this happening, then you are blinder than I thought. Most of the flawed belief systems that we have attempted to use, mainly to comfort and to control our people, are built on beliefs that are completely made up stories. We did not know any better then, so we made up a huge amount of information that we now need to unlearn. For example, we created the idea of gods. This would be okay if they worked with us to establish some kind of a working relationship. We were supposed to fear these gods, but through time we found that we really did not need to fear them because they seemed to be doing absolutely nothing. Without fearing God, there is nothing to fear when we want to commit atrocities except each other, and we have not and had not outlined ourselves to be as scary as the gods that we created. Thus, what humans thought of our actions really never amounted to much of anything, even though we are all that matters. People, societies, reject godly belief systems because they are not real. I am real, and so are 7 billion people and growing. The point is that no culture on the planet has ever believed altogether, collectively, in something true as a foundation of belief. Hopefully, all that is about to change. Why now? Are you kidding? No, really. Are you freaking kidding me? You wonder why all the hullabaloo? Using religion to answer the questions has utterly failed. This is what I mean by using religion as a foundation of belief. The questions are outlined in the next chapter. I do not condemn teachings derived from religions. In fact, I support and agree with many of the morals and ethics regarding what we should and should not do. One would be a fool not to. Just another book on the shelf, though. You will notice here that no one really seems to be able to follow their religion to a T. It is hypocritical to try. Hypocrisy is neither good nor bad and is actually quite underrated. See the people of Boulder, Colorado. Hypocrisy is professing something that one does not follow perfectly all the time. People do not follow their religion or philosophy mostly for two reasons. Because it really does not make sense to their awareness, nor their brains in which the awareness dwells, and because it is difficult to be as good as you can tell yourself to be, partially because it means doing a lot for others who never really seem to do all that much for you. However, to say, as I sit, that I will base my life on anything that has no verifiable basis in reality is not a chance that I wish to take with my life, or yours, for that matter. Throughout these pages, you will gather that I seem to be focused on gods and religions. That is how all of this started for me, and apparently for you too. Their existence in the hearts and minds of humans has troubled me in many ways. I'm upset. I live my life and walk this planet wondering why you are not upset and disturbed about the same things, and perhaps you are. I see that people are complacent. That is to say that people are merely accepting most of the information put before them as fact. Some of us do not, and we wait for ourselves to find the answers, difficult as it is to be lost and aware of it. We think and feel that there is some sort of extra awareness. We are the universe aware of itself, and we, like the universe, have a lot of power. This is the power of awareness within us that we feel. We foresee events very accurately, and that scares us. Sometimes things happen too perfectly, and we don't believe that nature can do these things. We hear and experience energetic patterns in our heads that we may assign voices and names to if we wish. They sound like gods. We do not think that our brain has the power, or else we might take more pleasure in dealing with it. Quite unfortunately, gods are fabrications of purpose by scared, unknowing people. These notions of religious intentions must be dispelled now. This is of planetary importance. How dumb do you have to be to think that something other than us has anything to do with our mess? I am very tired of it. Please stop believing in this stupid stuff, printed all over our money and in our face all the time. I will state that this emotion is only the tip of the iceberg for me. How can humanity base its existence in something that has no verifiable basis in reality? This is the dumbest thing I have ever heard of. What a joke. How can humanity thrive on and cherish energetic patterns that focus on indoctrinating, brain dirtying the people of this planet with such obviously flawed philosophies? What a crock. I mean, we cruelly pound ideas that are false into the heads of our children and subordinate cultures. How sick is that? If there were a God, an overseer, an all-knowing and all-powerful, ever-present entity that had the power to manifest itself as human, then that entity is one dumb son of a gun that has absolutely no mercy and sits back on a heavenly lazy boy, munching popcorn and laughing its rear off as it watches the people of this world killing each other over who this entity is and whether or not it is really there to enjoy itself and ourselves as we kill each other amidst our confusion. Yeah, I think not. And that concludes part 1 of chapter 3.